Are you thinking about selling your art at art fairs? Well, there is a whole lot to learn, but let me tell you, it can be really profitable for artists. I make anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000 in one weekend selling my art at art fairs throughout the Midwest. Now, I sell my work at craft fairs and fine art fairs, so there's a range of the quality level of the art at the different shows. So I have experience in both respects. But in this video, I'm going to share with you the top 5 things that I wish I knew when I was first starting out doing art fairs. First, the size of the show matters, and this isn't with regard to the number of vendors or other artists who are showing there, but it's with regard to the number of customers who are attending the event. And every art fair should be able to give you a rough estimate of the numbers of attendees. And I would say the rule of thumb, if you want to make really decent money, this is at least $2,000 to $3,000 per show. You should at minimum have 20,000 attendees at the art fair. If you do an art fair that only has 1,000 people show up, it's going to give you such a difficult time to be able to reach those levels, the thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's why I have a cutoff. If the show doesn't have 20,000 people attending, I don't go. I want to share one story with you as an example. Okay, so back in my first year of doing art fairs, I had no idea what I was doing. And there was a show in a main street of a neighboring town to mine. It was like $35 or $40 for a booth fee at it. And that was the first red flag. If your booth fee is like $50, then it's a really bad show. You probably should just skip it, honestly. Booth fees need to be at least $300 or more, usually $500 or $600 if you want the show to be really big and really good where there's a lot of people in attendance. And you know, the thing is that these events, they know that their event spaces, the booth spots are worth that much. That's why they charge that much for them, because they know they're bringing in the customers and the artists are making the sales. So it's something to keep in mind. If it's a really cheap booth fee, then you have to be very skeptical because it's probably not going to be a very good show. But my story I wanted to share with you was, so I did this show and it was awesome. I won an award. I got first in digital art category because I was like the only one in the digital art category. So I was a winner out of default, right? I was the only one. But I guess it did make me feel good that I won an award at this event, but I only sold one print, so I think I made like $15. My booth fee was $35 or $40, so I actually lost money. I had to go out there, set up all of my art fair booth tent and all of this stuff, spend the entire day out there. It was just a total waste of my time. So lesson learned, small events should be avoided. Next is getting a proper tent for my art fair booth. The thing is that when I first started out, I wanted to save money. So I got a cheap Easy Up tent that was supposed to be water resistant, but it wasn't really waterproof because no Easy Up tent is completely waterproof. They're all kind of flimsy and they are easy to set up and they're definitely cheaper than the better tents. But the problem is that your artwork, if it rains, which I have big lessons learned from this, if it rains and there's like wind and stuff, it's just going to end up coming in and ruining all the stuff you have hanging on the walls and in your print bins and everything. And the amount of art that you are going to lose if there's bad weather for saving some money on a tent is just really not worth it. And for me, I thought, well, I would just try the Easy Up tent for a few shows, see if I could make money. It seemed like it was a good idea, right? You know, don't waste money on this $2,000 tent if $150 tent will work for at least a few shows. But I ended up having to spend $2,000 on the better tent anyway. And so really I wasted that $150 on the cheap Easy Up and the frustration of having to try to make sure that my stuff didn't get ruined in the stormy weather, which is inevitable when you're doing outdoor art fairs. So yeah, lesson learned here. Just go ahead and buy the better tent if you think you're going to be doing this full time. Next is niching down. I think you should always have a cohesive subject within your art fair booth. So my booth focuses on animal art, but you could be a landscape painter or a sculptor, but just try to have everything very similar. And here's why. When I first started doing art fairs, I had my subject matter all over the place. I had fractal art that was digital, kind of abstract art. I had landscapes, animals, people, all sorts of different stuff. And so when people walk by and they see that, I mean, you got to realize these people are walking by, they're talking to their friends, they're looking at other art fair booths and other things going on, other people walking by them, pets that people are walking, listening to the music that's being played at the event, all sorts of different stuff, maybe eating some food. So they're doing all this other stuff. And so you need something that's going to grab their attention, right? And the thing is that when you see a whole bunch of hodgepodge of different things in an art fair booth, that is not nearly as captivating as a whole bunch of the same things. So with animals, for example, if they like animals, they know when they walk into this booth, they're going to see a whole bunch of animals. And it's easy for them to process. It's easy for them to understand because they're making very snap, quick decisions on whether they enter your booth or not. And so animals, oh, I like animals. Well, I'll go in here, right? But if they see all sorts of different stuff, you don't know what their eye is going to land on for that 5 seconds where they might pay attention enough to think about whether they'll enter your booth. And if you have some animals and that appeals to them, but they see one of your landscapes and they say, oh, landscapes, not for me. Or what's that weird abstract stuff? No, that's not for me. Or vice versa. If they wanted to see the abstracts and then they saw an animal, oh, I don't want to see animal art, then they're not going to go in. So that's why it's so crucial to niche down and have a similar subject matter of all the art in your art fair booth. Also, booth location is so important. If you can get your booth at the beginning of the art fair where everybody's just first starting walking in, like maybe the first 10 or 15 booths, that's going to help you because people haven't already spent their money on prior artist booths. Also, if you can get a corner booth, and usually these cost extra money, but if you can get a corner booth, you want to pay extra for it because a corner booth is always going to help you get more visual exposure at the event. You have not only one side of your booth that you can hang out of, the front where people will walk by and see, but oftentimes they're turning a corner or they're walking toward you and they can see that other side of the booth. So that gives you double the visual exposure. And when you're going to an event, let's say you're paying $500 and it's only $50 more for a corner, it's a no-brainer. Pay for the corner every time. And if you are applying for a show and there is a request box, make sure to ask for your requests in the box every time. Ask to be at the beginning of the show. Ask to get a corner booth. And in most cases, ask to avoid being right next to the music. Because if you're right next to the music, it can be really loud and it can be hard for you to talk to customers. And you need to be able to sell to people when they come in your booth. That's part of the appeal for customers to purchase from you in person rather than purchasing online from an artist that's probably cheaper than you are selling in person. The appeal is to be able to interact with the artist. And you have a difficult time being personable and interacting with people if the music is really, really loud. So that's why I always ask to be away from the music at the beginning of the show and in a corner booth. It is going to set you up to make the most money at whatever show you do. Next, you need to have affordable items, preferably under $20 in your art fair booth. Even if you are doing a fine art fair where there are really expensive things being sold there, let's say $3,000 paintings hanging up in neighboring booths, it's always a good idea to have some items, even if it's just postcards or greeting cards, art prints that are under $20. Now, I'm not suggesting for you to price your original work at under $20 because obviously you need to make what your time is worth on your original handmade pieces. On your prints, postcards, things like that, make sure you have something that's under $20 because you kind of think about buyer psychology a little bit at these events. There are a lot of people showing up who are going to make impulse buys, and they're not going to make an impulse buy for something that's $2,000. Likely they'll have to see you year after year and then decide eventually, after they've thought about it over the previous year that they saw something that they liked but didn't get, eventually they see you the next year and maybe the year after that, and then they'll graduate up to buying that $2,000 item because they feel like you are a reputable artist and they know you and they can trust you at that point. But having someone that they've never seen before just whip out $2,000 the first time, it might happen. I can't say that it won't ever happen, but it's really, really rare. And so that's why you want to have your items that are under $20 so you can appeal to the masses. And this way, when you're at an event where there's 20,000 or more people, you actually have a lot of opportunity to make sales. And honestly, having lower priced items is one of the things that I see even seasoned artists making the mistake of. I'll have people in my booth, because I always have lots of things under $20. The majority of what I sell is under $20. Thing is, I'll have lots of people in my booth and I'm selling constantly throughout these events. I'll sell 100 or 200 different sales throughout the whole event. And so I have a lot of people walking out of my booth carrying my bags around the art fair, which is also a good advertisement for me because people will see my art in the bag from another customer, and then the customer will end up telling them, hey, she's over there at this part of the art fair. And people will come, and then I will see neighbors of mine who have only expensive work and they don't sell hardly anything. I mean, sometimes they might sell 1 or 2 pieces and they do end up making like $1,000 or something. But in the same event where I make like $8,000, they make $1,000. And it's not because my work is better than theirs. their work actually might be better than mine, but it's that my work is more affordable and it's more appealing to the masses and those impulse buys. And so keep that in mind when you're doing art fairs, is to have something that's appealing for all levels of the market. Have your cheap stuff and have your more expensive stuff. It's also important to know what art fairs are in the top 200 in the country, because there really is a list for this. All of us artists out there who do these art fairs regularly as a profession, we review a lot of the art fairs that we do every year, and I've made a video about how you can find this information. You can watch it here. If you do these art fairs, it's going to allow you to step up your art fair game and make more money at the shows that you decide to do. All right, thank you for watching. See you next time.